Can omega-3 cure dry eye? Hello, I am Clara Gomez, an optician and integrative dietitian. You can find me on social media as Blando de Ojitos, where I share information about functional nutrition and dry eye. In this video, I will tell you everything you need to know to improve your eyes using omega-3. First, let's provide some context. Dry eye is characterized by the presence of inflammation on the ocular surface, generally resulting from damage or inflammation of the various structures responsible for producing the different layers of tears, namely, the lacrimal gland that produces the aqueous layer, the meibomian glands that produce the lipid layer, and the goblet cells that produce the mucus layer. In fact, dry eye is called dry keratoconjunctivitis because it often presents with inflammation of the conjunctiva and the cornea. One of the most recommended supplements worldwide for treating dry eye is precisely omega-3 due to its anti-inflammatory effect. However, it is easy to find many testimonials from people who have not had good results or simply have not obtained the benefits they expected from the intake of this fatty acid. Let's see why this happens. Both omega-3 and omega-6 are essential fatty acids, which means we must ingest them through our diet, as our body cannot synthesize them on its own. Omega-3 can be found in 3 different forms: ALA, EPA, and DHA, depending on the length of the chain of these fatty acids. On the other hand, we can also obtain it from different sources, whether animal or plant. Now we can start talking about it. Yes. On one hand, animal-derived omega-3 is found in long-chain form, and they are the famous EPA and DHA that we find in omega-3 supplements. This EPA and DHA form is what our body is capable of using to perform its functions, and we can mainly obtain it from blue fish such as anchovies, sardines, or sardines. However, you have surely heard that some plant-based foods also contain omega-3. However, they contain it in the form of ALA, or alpha-linolenic acid, which would be the short chain of these fatty acids. At this point, you may wonder, but if what our body uses is EPA and DHA, what is the purpose of ALA that we can find, for example, in chia seeds or walnuts? It turns out that this alpha-linolenic acid that we find in short chain form can elongate its chain to become EPA and DHA. However, this conversion is very small, so it is very difficult to meet the requirements we need through plant-based sources. But be careful, because there are some microalgae that do contain DHA in long-chain form. However, what we usually find in these products is omega-3 in the form of DHA. To explain the different uses between EPA and DHA, I first have to talk to you about omega-6. Omega-6 is another essential fatty acid, and it turns out that many of the beneficial properties attributed to omega-3 actually depend on the balance between these two fatty acids. As in the previous case, we can find omega-6 in 2 different forms. If we find it in short chain form, we will call it linoleic acid, which is mainly located in oils of plant origin, such as soybean oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, or safflower. When mucin is elongated, it transforms into arachidonic acid, which we find mainly in animal products such as meat or eggs. This is one of the reasons why some publications accuse red meat of having a pro-inflammatory effect. However, this statement has some nuances that I will explain to you next. The origin of the meat plays a fundamental role in establishing its omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, that is, how much of each it contains. For example, grass-fed meat has a lower amount of omega-6 compared to grain-fed meat. This reason, in addition to being much less inflammatory, allows us to use it as a super nutritious food that provides us with vitamins, minerals, bioavailable iron, and also high-quality proteins. In the case of eggs, something similar happens. So, considering that omega-6 is just as essential as omega-3, when including the necessary amount of omega-6, we should do so through sources that provide us with many other benefits. At this point, we can ask the big question: why do we hear that omega-3 is the good one in the story if both are essential? Well, it turns out that both fatty acids share their enzymatic pathways and compete for their oxidation pathways. I'll translate it for you with the help of the board. Let's imagine it as if it were a puzzle. Here we have our receptor, here we have omega-6 in the form of arachidonic acid, and here omega-3 in the form of HEPA. If a molecule of omega-6 in the form of arachidonic acid binds to our receptor, we will have a pro-inflammatory effect, as it will induce the production of series 2 prostaglandins that cause vasoconstriction and the synthesis of inflammatory mediators. However, if a molecule of omega-3 in the form of HEPA binds to our receptor, we will have an anti-inflammatory effect, as it promotes the synthesis of series 3 prostaglandins that will mitigate the effects produced by arachidonic acid. That is, a proper intake of omega-3 in the form of long chain, namely HEPA and DHA, will prevent the formation of inflammatory mediators by a kind of competition against omega-6 to bind to our puzzle piece, and will also mitigate the pro-inflammatory effect of those that have already formed. However, if instead of having a balance between these 2 fatty acids, we have an excess of omega-6, this will imply an excess formation of inflammatory mediators without having enough omega-3 to counteract. In conclusion, a good amount of omega-3 will have an anti-inflammatory effect, while an excess of omega-6 will have a pro-inflammatory effect. If we want to obtain benefits from omega-3, we must understand that it is not a magic pill and that it is necessary to combine supplementation with an increased intake through our diet while reducing sources of omega-6. However, this is not the only reason why omega-3 may not be effective. You must take into account that to use it therapeutically, we usually use quite high doses that range around 4 to 5 GU. If we look at the supplements that are usually recommended, they range between about 250 to 500 milligrams of it, so we fall quite short. In addition, supplementation at such high doses should be supervised by a professional, as it is not without contraindications. For example, we should be cautious in patients who are being treated with anticoagulants. To conclude, I wanted to tell you that this fatty acid has many benefits in a lot of pathologies. We can use it for neuropathic pain, for autoimmune diseases such as Sjogren's syndrome. It has a fantastic impact in cases of edema or diabetic retinopathy, and it is essential for the proper formation of the retina in babies. We will leave all of this for another video. For now, tell me in the comments if you knew this information and subscribe for more content on integrative health.